to my channel. Today I have another what's for dinner video for you, but this one is going to be just a little bit different. This is actually going to be a family favorites edition what's for dinner. So I actually went back through all of my other what's for dinner videos and I picked out some of our top favorite meals to share with you this week. So these are actually repeat meals, but I know they're meals that your whole family is going to love. These are the meals that I go for on a busy weeknight when I just need something quick that I know my family will actually eat. So I hope you guys enjoy these meals. Let me know if you would like to see more of these videos in the future where I actually go through all of my what's for dinner videos and show you guys all of my favorites. If you are new here, don't forget to hit that little subscribe button. I do post a new what's for dinner video every single Sunday. Lots of cooking videos, meal prep, grocery hauls, things like that. So definitely make sure you're subscribed. But let's go ahead and get into all of these meals. This first recipe is a chicken and zucchini casserole. This is one of my all-time favorites. It's very easy to throw together on a busy weeknight, and it also sneaks lots of veggies into your kids' diets, which is always a win. I love to sneak veggies into recipes where I can. So this recipe actually calls for 4 zucchini, but I personally think that's just way too much. So I like to use 2 zucchini instead, and I find that that's the perfect amount for this casserole. So I just like to cut mine up into pretty small pieces. I cut the zucchini in half lengthwise and then cut it again, so each slice is cut into 4 pieces. I'm also dicing up half of a yellow onion. This is just going to add some extra flavor. I'm just going to set this aside with the zucchini. Now into a separate bowl, I'm adding in 1 stick of melted butter right along with this whole box of chicken stuffing mix. This is going to be used for the topping for the stuffing, and then some of this is also going to get mixed throughout, but you're just going to go ahead and mix this stuffing right into the melted butter. Once you have this all mixed together, you're actually just going to take about half of it and set it aside. That is going to be what goes on top for the crumb mixture. And then here I'm just adding in that chopped up onion as well as the zucchini. And then I am also adding in 2 chicken breasts that were just all shredded and cooked and ready to go. Here I'm also adding in a can of cream of chicken. And then you're also going to want to add in half a cup of sour cream. This is optional, but I do like to also add in a little bit of pepper and some garlic powder. That's just personal preference. The recipe doesn't actually call for that, but I always like to add a little garlic and a little pepper where I can. And then I'm just mixing all of this together, and this is going to be pretty much it for this casserole. It's super easy to just quick mix together on a busy weeknight. Now I'm just going to spray my baking dish with a little bit of olive oil, and I'm going to spread this mixture all along the bottom and try and spread it around evenly. Once that's all spread around, I'm actually going to be taking that stuffing mixture that I set aside earlier with the melted butter in it, and that is just going to get sprinkled right on top of this stuffing casserole. So this is what the zucchini casserole should look like before it goes into the oven. You're just going to bake this at 350 degrees for right around 40 to 50 minutes until it is nice and crispy on top. Super, super delicious. I absolutely love this recipe and highly recommend it. It's a super great way to sneak veggies into your kids' diet. Now for this next recipe, I'm going to be making a beef stroganoff. This is definitely one of my personal favorite recipes. It's also very easy to throw together, and it's a one-pot meal, so that is such a winner for me. I love when I don't have too many dishes to do. This is just really, really easy. So I'm starting off by cutting up 1 large yellow onion. I am cutting this into pretty small pieces. I don't like large chunks of onion in my cooking. You can also dice up some mushrooms at this time, but I typically will just use canned mushrooms in this recipe. Once I have all of the onions chopped up, I'm just adding in a little bit of olive oil and getting those onions cooked through until they're nice and translucent in color. Once they are translucent and good to go, I'm adding in 1 pound of cooked ground beef. I already had mine prepped in the fridge, and I'm also adding in a can of mushrooms with a little bit of salt and pepper. I'm just letting those mushrooms heat up a little bit. Now this is where you would add the regular mushrooms if you were not going to use the canned ones, and I would just let those cook through before adding in the rest of the ingredients. So here I have a big scoop of minced garlic. You guys know I like to use the lazy garlic, as I like to call it. It's just a little bit easier, but I would say you're gonna want a couple cloves of garlic. And then I'm also adding in 2 cans of beef broth here. You're also going to want to add in about 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce, and you're just going to bring all of this to a boil. Once it's boiling, that is when you can go ahead and add in all of your noodles. I'm also going to be adding in the salt. I like to start off with about half a teaspoon of salt and about half a teaspoon of pepper, but go ahead and just do that to taste. And then you're going to add in all of your noodles. So for the pasta in this recipe, I am using some wide egg noodles, and the recipe actually calls for 4 cups of them, but I would say that I use closer to 5 cups, and I find that that's a really good amount for our family, and that's what we prefer. I would say mine take right around 15 minutes to make in this pot. Like I mentioned before, I do make sure that the water is boiling before I put the pasta in, just because I want that pasta to cook fast so it doesn't get super mushy. That's the issue that I sometimes have with the one pot recipes, but I really haven't found an issue with this one. I have made this multiple times and it always comes out super easy and delicious, so I definitely would recommend this one pot meal. Once the pasta has completely cooked through, you're going to want to add in a 1/4 cup of sour cream and a 1/4 cup of cream cheese. This is the point where you're going to want to actually turn the heat off so nothing will curdle in the pot. With cream cheese and sour cream, you have to be pretty careful of that. So just go ahead and turn the heat off, and this cheese should melt right in there. Here is what your beef stroganoff should look like when it is all done. It is super easy and delicious, and it's also very easy to clean up since it's just a one pot recipe. So for this next recipe, I'm making a sausage and pepper skillet. This is one of my kids' favorites. They absolutely love this one, and it's very simple to make. So I'm just starting off by making my rice in my Instant Pot, but you can make this however you want. You're gonna need about 1 1/4 cups of rice. I do like to use brown rice instead of white just because it's a little bit healthier. I can go ahead and link the recipe that I use for cooking my brown rice down below, but I definitely find that the Instant Pot is just the easiest for me. This recipe calls for half of a red bell pepper and half of a yellow bell pepper, but go ahead and use whatever you have on hand. I've done this with all sorts of different colored peppers and it has worked out perfectly fine. I think my favorites have to be the red pepper and probably the yellow or the orange. That is definitely my favorite. It's a little bit sweeter and I just really like that variety, but I'm just getting all of these chopped up and ready to go. You're also gonna want some sort of sausage. So for our family personally, we have so much of this venison sausage to use in our freezer. It's actually just like a Polish sausage, but it works really well in this recipe and I love that I can use it up in this one. But you can seriously use whatever you have on hand. You can try out turkey sausage, pork sausage, totally play around with it and see what you like. But I would say you're gonna want right around a pound and just get all of that sliced up. And of course, for some extra flavor, I'm just dicing up this white onion. This is a pretty small one, but it definitely adds a ton of flavor, and this is a step that you're not going to want to skip. So once everything is cut up and ready to go, you're just going to be heating up a little bit of olive oil over medium heat, and then you can add in all of your sliced up meat as well as your peppers and your onions. You're just going to cook all of this until the peppers are translucent in color and that sausage is fully cooked through. During that last minute or so of cooking, you're going to want to add in your garlic. The recipe calls for 4 cloves of garlic. I just added in a couple really big scoops of minced garlic, and then I'm also adding in half a teaspoon of sea salt as well as half a teaspoon of black pepper, and I'm just mixing all of this together and letting that garlic get nice and fragrant. So once that garlic is nice and fragrant, you're going to be adding in about 5 tablespoons of tomato paste. I did just go ahead and eyeball it to make it easier on myself. And then you're going to need about 1 1/4 cups of chicken broth total for this recipe, but you're only going to add in about 3/4 of a cup right off the bat. I will have the full recipe linked down below for you guys, so it's just super easy for you to follow along with. You're just going to mix all of that together, and once it's kind of heated through, then you can add in the rest of your seasonings. So you're going to need 1 teaspoon of paprika, and then the recipe calls for 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne, but I will actually add in 1/8 teaspoon of chili powder. I just don't want this to be too spicy for my kids, and I find that the chili powder is just perfect for them. They absolutely love this recipe. It's one of their all-time favorites, and I love making it for them. And then that rice is just completely done cooking, so I'm just adding that right into the pot and getting everything mixed together. So this is a meal that my kids absolutely love. They eat it so well every single time I make it, and I love that it also has a lot of hidden peppers in it. You guys know I love sneaking in a veggie where I can, but this is how dinner turned out. The next meal that I'm going to make is just a really simple taco pizza, but this is one of our family favorites. It's super delicious. I'm just starting off with a can of refried beans. Here you just see me using my Kitchen Mama can opener. I absolutely love this thing. I've had it for probably like a good 6 months or so, and it's definitely one of my favorite kitchen gadgets. It's super easy, and I love that the edges are not super sharp, so I'm not worried about my kids accidentally touching a can. So into my pan here, I have about 1 pound of lean ground beef. It's all cooked up and ready to go. And then I'm adding in 1 package of taco seasoning mix with probably about half a cup of salsa. And I'm just getting all of this mixed together until it's heated through. And then I'm adding in that can of refried beans that you just saw me open. This will be a really thick consistency, so you're probably going to want to add in a little water. You will see me do that in just a minute here. It's really hard to mix it all together without that water mixed in. This is not the most appetizing meal that you guys have probably ever seen on my channel, but I promise you it is so full of flavor and very worth it. I highly recommend this recipe. I've been making it this way for years, and it's just very simple and easy to put together. You're just going to heat all of that through, and then you can go ahead and get your pizza dough ready. So this is the pizza recipe that I use. It is the KitchenAid pizza dough. I will have the recipe linked down below. I've showed you guys how to make it before, and it's really super easy. I just throw it right into my KitchenAid, and it comes out perfect every single time. It's very easy to work with. I definitely recommend trying this one out if you are looking for a good pizza dough recipe. I think it's really handy to have a very foolproof pizza dough recipe to have on hand, because there is so many different pizzas that you can make with this on a busy weeknight. I do like to pop my pizza dough into the oven for this recipe for maybe like 8 or 9 minutes at like 400 degrees just to kind of pre-bake it a little bit. And then I'm going to be taking that meat mixture that was heated up, and I'm just spreading that all across the top. Again, this doesn't look very pretty, but I promise we're going to jazz it up with lots of cheese and fresh veggies, and it is going to be one of the best taco pizzas that you have ever had, and you can make it in the comfort of your own home. For the cheese on this pizza today, I am using a Colby and Monterey Jack blend, but you can definitely use any sort that you want. Cheddar would be really good, or a taco blend would also be really delicious, but use whatever you have on hand and whatever your family likes. And then I will just throw this into a 400-degree oven for right around 20 minutes or so until the crust is nice and golden brown. While that's in the oven, I'm just getting all of my veggies chopped up and ready to go. Now you can definitely play around with the veggies in this recipe. I always like to do either chopped up iceberg lettuce or some shredded lettuce. It's just super delicious. But of course you can use romaine lettuce, you can use tomatoes, green peppers, black olives, onions. The options are really endless here. But I'm just chopping up some lettuce with some diced tomatoes, and that's pretty much all that we had on hand on this night. Here's what the pizza looks like when it comes out of the oven. It's just super cheesy and delicious. I'm just cutting myself a slice and then adding all of my favorite ingredients right on top. So I personally like to do a little bit of lettuce on mine with some tomatoes, and then I do like to top it with either some salsa or some taco sauce. Either will work and will add so much flavor. And then the secret ingredient here is to take some Doritos and just crush those up right on top. This adds so much flavor. It also adds a little bit of crunchiness, and it just really takes this recipe up a notch. So for this next recipe, I am making a chicken stir fry. This is one of my kids' all-time favorites, and I love it because it's filled with tons of veggies, which is always a win in my book. So I'm just starting off by cutting up my chicken. So for this recipe, I'm using 2 chicken breasts, but mine were very large. So if you have small ones, go ahead and use 3 of them, but you're gonna want around 2 pounds of chicken, and I just kind of cut that up into little strips. Now I'm just heating up a little bit of olive oil over medium heat in my skillet. Once that has fully heated up, I'm just dumping in my chicken breast. I am seasoning it up with a little bit of salt, pepper, and garlic powder. You guys already know if you watch any of my What's for Dinner videos, but those are my go-to seasonings that are pretty much in every single recipe. You pretty much cannot go wrong with them. And I'm just getting this chicken fully cooked up. So while that chicken is cooking up, I'm getting all of my veggies prepped and ready to go. Now, if you watch any of my grocery hauls, you know that my kids absolutely love peppers. We pretty much always have them in our house. So of course I had to add those into the stir fry. So for this recipe, I'm adding in 1 orange pepper as well as 1 red pepper. I'm just slicing those up, and then I also cut them in half so they're a little bit smaller. I don't like mine super big pieces. And then I had about half of a purple onion to use up, so I'm just slicing that up as well. Once that chicken has fully cooked, I'm just removing it to a plate, and then I'm going to be using this pan for cooking up all of my veggies in. I'm adding in a little bit of extra olive oil and getting that heated up, and then I'm adding in my onion, my peppers, and I did also decide to add in some fine green beans. You can definitely play around with this and add broccoli, carrots, whatever your family loves. That is what you can add to this stir fry, and I'm just getting all of this cooked together. Once all of those veggies are cooked through, I'm adding that chicken back in and just letting it heat up for a little bit. For this stir fry, you can totally pair it with either rice or with pasta, but on this night I was pairing it with some thin spaghetti. That's our favorite pasta to use when I make stir fry, but I definitely have paired this with rice, and it also turns out super delicious that way. When I do use pasta, I go ahead and salt the water and just cook these noodles until they are al dente. This stir-fry sauce is super easy to put together. I have about 4 tablespoons of cold water in my bowl, and then I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch, and I'm mixing that together before adding in all of my other ingredients. So here I have half a cup of chicken broth, and then I'm also adding in about 5 tablespoons of soy sauce. For the rest of the ingredients, I'm adding in about half a tablespoon of sesame oil with 1 tablespoon of olive oil. I'm also adding in some sugar. The recipe actually called for honey, but my daughter can't have honey, so I just did some sugar. And then I also added in about a teaspoon of some ginger, as well as a big scoop of minced garlic and some little red pepper flakes. And then I'm just mixing all of this together, and this is going to be the sauce that we pour right on top of the stir fry. So you're just going to pour this right on top and let it simmer for just a couple of minutes. This sauce will get nice and thick, and this stir fry turns out absolutely delicious. I highly recommend this recipe. Once your pasta is all done, go ahead and get your noodles drained off, and then you're going to be adding those right into your stir-fry mixture. You don't have to add this all together if you don't want to, but I just think it's easier to mix everything together. If you don't want to mix it, you can just go ahead and put your pasta on the bottom with your veggies on top and serve it that way. But either way, this is a super delicious stir-fry. I definitely recommend this recipe. You probably have most of the ingredients on hand, and stir-fry is such a great way to use up produce that is going to go bad. So definitely try this one out if you have never tried making your own homemade stir fry. Alright guys, that is going to wrap up this week of What's for Dinner. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Hit that little subscribe button if you have not already. I do post a new What's for Dinner video every single Sunday. Lots of grocery hauls, meal prep, and tons of other food related content. So if that is something you are interested in, make sure you are subscribed. But that is going to be it for today's video. I will see you all next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.
As a young girl, the fields were mine. We played hide and seek for hours, raised our shadows among the pines. So offshore, playful and free, without a